And gentlemen, the rest of the market seems to be thinking what you all are talking about right now, and that's that there's no worries if it comes to this. Brian, you say that you've been telling people, you've been watching this for a long time. You're not surprised, but it's not a huge threat.
I don't think it's a huge threat. I do look at this group, and I think there is reason for increased regulation. I do think there is the possibility for breakup. And when I look at the companies most at risk, it's Facebook and Google, which if they were ever broken up, their stock prices, in my view, would be much, much higher.
That's what I mean. You think even if they're broken up, the valuation goes up from here. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to dig into some of these businesses where numbers aren't given out, whether it's YouTube or Waymo over at Google or, some of the businesses, WhatsApp or Instagram over at Facebook and how they're monetizing that. So I think when people would see those separately, they'd give a better valuation for sure.
What if they aren't broken up? What if they're just told they can't continue to operate the way they operate and they have to change behavior that has helped them gain a competitive edge to this point?
Well, I think they definitely have to change, and they're starting to change. You've seen it with Facebook and Google, some of the privacy initiatives. But you look at the valuations here, Google 18 times X cash, and you look at Facebook 15 times. I think they're very, very depressed. I mean, Facebook, just in my group, because I have the luxury of covering internet with software, the operating margins at Facebook are higher than any company I cover.
Tim, let's talk about this. You have told people that if stocks come under pressure here, you would use that as a time to actually add to your positions. Why aren't you worried about regulation?
Well, I think the other guests hit on some of the key points to it. We're seeing the regulation go on in Europe. We're about to anniversary that regulation and get a sense for what that does to ad rates. And so far, it really hasn't changed ad rates so much in Europe. So what this is all about is data and advertising. And if advertising keeps going up and the secular tailwinds of people moving to online advertising and advertising on social media continue to grow, they're just going to see maybe a little bit of maybe tamped down earnings over the next few years, but they're still in the sweet spot.
You say that this is just campaign talk, but we're not talking about elected officials or even hopeful elected officials at this point. We're talking about actually the DOJ and the FTC. Doesn't that concern you on any level?
It always concerns me. I think that if we're talking about breakups of companies, I would rather see a company break up a company. I'd rather see a good operator come in and break up a company. The government stepping in and trying to figure out what these pieces, parts are and break them up in any sort of reasonable way does not give me a very warm and fuzzy feeling. However, there's still a tremendous secular tailwind behind these companies, and they are ready for the regulation. They've been told about it now for 18 months, and you got to think these companies are managing their business for the future, not the past.
Brian, what are some of the moves that you think these companies are taking right now to try and avoid regulation, to try and get in line?
Well, I think you've seen Google already make some big moves in terms of you've got to opt in for them to, you go to their website and there's different areas where you can say, look, I don't want to be tracked or I want to be tracked for a few months.
That's privacy, moving towards privacy. And that's
right.
A nod towards that. But what about things like the advertising market or even the third-party advertising market? You think they'll ever have to split that off?
Like the ad server business. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, because they have 70% of the market. They have 80, 90% of search. So it's very possible. You've seen Facebook make a lot of changes in terms of how they're going to encrypt and kind of combine their different platforms. Mm-hmm. So I think they're moving in the right direction. My view is this. I mean, you've got a company, Facebook, with 2.7 billion users around the world. Yeah. You have Google with 80, 90% of the market, and they have too much power on data, and that influences democracy.
Brian, thanks for coming in.